We all know that sugar is a growing problem in our diets, but for many it's an incredibly difficult vice to drop. If you answered honestly, as of today, could you go 30 days without eating refined sugars in your diet? In today's video, we follow one of my favourite YouTubers, and that is Matt D'Avella. Matt is a documentary filmmaker, YouTuber, and is most famous for making the documentary Minimalism that I'm sure many of you will have seen on Netflix. And on that bombshell, to the video.
Last year I had developed a bad habit of snacking. I had lost all self-control in the face of a free donut or plate of cookies, and I made justifications for my actions. Excuses like, well, I did go to the gym today. Overall, I eat pretty healthy. It's not like I do this every day, until I started to do it every day.
I think that is a trap that many people struggle with and find themselves in today. Processed refined sugars are very addictive, and there is a lot of science showing that these sugars have similar effects in the brain as illegal drugs such as cocaine. And there are many reasons why people struggle to kick their sugar habits. It could be that manufacturers have manipulated the foods to be more addictive. It could be a lack of sleep that causes your blood sugar levels to be all over the place. It could be having an imbalanced microbiome that is highly sugar fermented, and these bacteria will directly shape your cravings and appetite by secreting certain hormones. Whatever the reason is, when you are struggling with sugary foods, it is often a very deep hole to dig yourself out of. And then we fall into the trap of saying, I deserve this because I had a hard day, or I deserve this because I'm struggling with a relationship. It's a very vicious cycle.
I knew something had to change when, even though I exercise often, I noticed I was developing early onset dad gut. So I decided to quit sugar for 30 days.
That's the issue with these types of foods. A few calories here, a few calories there, and before you know it, you are starting to put the weight on. As I always say on this channel, if you eat approximately 500 calories a day over what your body needs, then you will put on approximately 1 pound a week. And 500 calories a day is very easy to consume if you are incorporating processed refined foods into your diet on a regular basis.
Now, most of us know that too much sugar is a bad thing. It's something that we've been taught ever since we were kids. And apart from simply putting a little bit of weight on your gut, there's a lot more serious problems that can come with eating too much sugar. It can damage your metabolism, cause type 2 diabetes, increase the likelihood that you'll get liver or kidney damage, causes inflammation of the skin, joint pain, tooth decay, and even problems maintaining an erection. So yeah, there's even that as well.
Yes, those are all issues in the body that have been implicated from over-consuming processed refined sugars. But we shouldn't only just demonize sugar in this way. If you over-consume any macronutrient, whether it be protein, fats or sugars, then it may cause issues in the body. Fat was demonized in the 1980s, and now it's sugar's turn. But none of these macros should be given a free pass if you are eating them uncontrollably. If you isolate sugars and eat them in high amounts, then they have the potential to cause problems. And this is the same for both protein and fats. Bottom line is that you want to be eating as close to whole foods for a large part of the time.
So on top of all that, on top of all of these bad things that it does to your body, it's also very addictive. So I know the first thing that I want to do right now is go through my entire apartment and find all of the things that have added sugar and get them out of my apartment.
Yes, these are very addictive, and the marketing behind these foods and the cultural and societal place that many of these foods now hold is very disturbing. The good thing that Matt is doing here though is removing these types of foods from his house. If you don't have these sugary foods in your house, then the chances of not eating said foods exponentially increases.
I knew I was consuming a decent amount of sugar, but without reading the labels and digging into weekly snacks and meals, I wouldn't know for sure. There were, of course, some no-brainers. Ice cream is loaded, chocolate snacks are packed, my once-a-month energy drink, but I was also surprised to find a lot of sugar in my protein bars. My breakfast cereal is basically a dessert. Even the bread I was buying had 5 grams a slice.
This is another problem today with these foods. Many people rely on the bold statements on the front of packaging without actually reading the ingredients and nutritional information on the back. So some companies may label their foods as low sugar or healthy alternatives when they are anything but. If you're going to buy store-bought foods, whether it's breakfast bars, cereal, sauces or anything else, then you absolutely have to read the nutritional profile on the back of these foods. Don't just rely on what the front of the box says.
If you're like me and you have very little self-control, the only thing you can do to regain control is to completely change your environment. It's impossible to eat snacks that you refuse to purchase and bring into your home in the first place.
Amen, and you also first need to acknowledge that you have a problem that Matt is doing here.
So all this stuff needs to go. The cravings were the worst for the first couple days, but even a week in, I was struggling late at night. All right, so I'm 7 days into this no sugar challenge, and this is probably the toughest night so far. About 45 minutes ago, I had a bit of a sugar craving, and instinctively I went to my snack cabinet, and I'll show you guys what I found. That's it, organic rice cake. Nothing sweet there.
There are lots of healthy alternatives that could have been used here. So for example, Matt could have substituted with fruit. He could also have substituted with homemade energy balls, for example. By not substituting here, the probability of failing is increased, and I would say it's comparable to quitting smoking. If you stop smoking abruptly without support, then statistics tell us that you will likely start smoking again. But if you stop smoking and use gum or patches, etc., then your chances of not smoking again are increased.
Before I started this challenge, I did a little bit of research, but I still had a lot of questions about sugar. What kind of sugar should we be avoiding, and how much is too much? So I asked my friend Becca Schern to help clear some things up for me. She's a registered dietitian and founder of Minimal Wellness. I'm hoping you can help me kind of break down when people decide to get sugar out of the diet. What does that usually look like? What kind of sugars are people usually trying to cut out?
Most people, when they're trying to cut out sugar, they're talking about added sugar. So sugar that gets added to a processed food, a cooked food. That's like table sugar or honey or high fructose corn syrup.
My king, this corn syrup was just delivered.
That is an important distinction to make here. Again, just to repeat this, we are talking about processed refined sugars. Whole fruits and carbohydrates are not problems, as they contain fiber, etc., that do not allow uncontrolled swings in your blood sugar levels.
Generally, it's recommended that you're somewhere but under, ideally, 5% of your calories from added sugar. So for a 2,000 calorie diet, that's 25 grams of added sugar.
And it turns out that added sugar can add up quick. I noticed the high levels in some of my daily snacks and the occasional foods I might get served on an airplane.
Added sugars are everywhere, so like I said earlier on, if you are someone who buys mostly pre-packed foods, then you will likely be getting exposed to a lot of refined added sugars. The answer is always, where possible, eat as close to whole foods as you can.
While my old instinct was to throw food in my mouth, my new instinct was to check the back of the package and then throw my food at Natalie.
You're not aiming for 25 grams of sugar every day. It's like over the course of a week, over the course of a month, like some days are really low, some days are quite high. So that is where you can get the flexibility to have dessert on a special occasion.
I would agree with that. Eat whole foods the majority of the time and then enjoy a chocolatey dessert at the weekend, or as the dietitian says, for special occasions. The problem today is that people have started to see a hard day at work as a special occasion, and these special occasions with refined sugars have become a daily occurrence.
And I think that that's where, as a culture, we've really got off track, is we no longer have sugar relegated to desserts or special occasions.
This is so true, and many different people and organisations are creating environments for this to be possible. Governments, food manufacturers, regulatory bodies, marketing agencies and everything in between all create a system that people can be bombarded with food messaging that is unhealthy and also damaging.
Right? It's like in everything because we eat so much processed food.
Yeah, and it was surprising even for me. Like, I had watched Fed Up and these documentaries, and I read a lot of blog posts about how much sugar is in everything. I knew it, but then I was still surprised by certain things. Like, my granola bar was like 30 grams of sugar, and I'm like, that's why it tastes so good. And it's hard. I think it takes really looking at everything you're purchasing and really understanding that if it tastes too good to be true, it's probably.
This is so true, but as Matt is saying there can't be any surprises if you are reading the ingredients list and also nutritional information.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why food manufacturers put a lot of added sugar in things. It tastes good, it makes you want to buy it again. It's really straightforward. The problem is it's terrible for us.
Who are food manufacturers to let health get in the way of profit?
Becca thought my 30-day no sugar challenge was a good step to understanding how my body personally responds to sugar, but also stressed the importance of maintaining a healthy and balanced diet. If I'm being honest, my diet isn't always balanced and it can sometimes look a bit primitive. All right, so tonight's dinner can really only be described as a bowl of food. Here, let me show you guys what we're working with here. We've got your rice, your chicken, and your daily recommended bacon. I should be eating more veggies. I just realized that right now. I'm gonna start doing that.
I think that's a wise suggestion that Matt gave himself there. Going from processed refined sugars to processed refined bacon is not really helping his longer term health prospects.
I must not have had a terrible sugar addiction because I didn't experience any headaches or major discomfort outside of nightly cravings. To combat these cravings, I made some tea as a replacement. This really helped to keep my mind distracted. My biggest fear and motivation to go on this 30-day challenge is because I know how small changes make a big difference. Now, normally when I talk about small changes, it relates to positive change, but it also works in the opposite direction. Small bad habits like snacking on junk food can build up and compound to something much worse.
This is so true. If you are not careful with processed refined foods and sugars, then very quickly you can be in a downward spiral of poor eating patterns.
What are you looking at?
You're a dog.
You make those early excuses and justifications, but eventually you don't need to make them anymore because the bad habit sticks and you're running on autopilot. So I'm thankful that I got out in front of it before things got any worse. In the past, I had relied on smoothies to get most of my vitamins, but as a part of this challenge, I also wanted to cut back on fruit. While they do include vitamins, nutrients, and fibers that are good for you, I wanted to force myself to eat more greens.
Again, this is very true for a lot of people and is something that I regularly see as a nutritionist. When I analyse people's diets, there is often very little in the way of greens and green leafy vegetables, and these types of foods offer so many different benefits to the body.
After the first 10 days, I started to prepare and eat healthier meals. For dinner, I'd have fish with brown rice and sautéed kale. Salads became my go-to meal because they were convenient and easy to prepare. We have curry cod with some brown rice and sautéed kale. In the kale, I actually sautéed it with some chicken broth, which I'm also going to be drinking here. This is like a bachelor meal.
Look, I'm plant-based vegan, so it should be no surprise that I don't see the necessity of the fish in that meal. It offers nothing from a nutritional perspective that can't be obtained from plants. That being said, the world isn't going vegan anytime soon, but if more people ate similar to Matt in terms of what he's eating in that video, then people's health problems, the environmental problems that we face, and animal suffering would be reduced. Getting people to go predominantly plant-based the majority of the time is more achievable in my opinion than telling everyone they have to go vegan.
Natalie's definitely much better around the kitchen than I am. I primarily eat for sustenance while she cooks and eats for the love of the food.
That is extremely sweet. I'm so nice.
Look at that. Double the sauce. I got no sauce. I found workarounds and substitutes for all meals that included sugar. Instead of fig jam sauce, I used mustard. Instead of vinegar, I used olive oil and a healthy squeeze of lemon, topped with some salt and pepper. 3 weeks in, and I noticed that my energy levels became more stable. No longer did I have huge swings of high to low energy throughout the day, especially as I tried to balance my diet out with protein, carbs, greens, and a little bit less bacon.
This is no surprise at all. If you go from a standard Western type of diet into a more clean omnivore type diet, then you will see benefits in terms of weight, cognition, sleep, and also energy. And you obviously won't be on those sugar roller coaster rides.
So what you're experiencing there is energy levels, but it's blood sugar fluctuations. So when you have lots of added sugar in your diet, you can get really big fluctuations in your blood sugar levels, which make you feel like you've got a lot of energy, and then, holy crap, you're crashing and you have no energy. And then what you typically do when you feel like you have no energy, especially if you're not paying attention, is to gravitate towards something that will give you quick energy, which sugar. You gravitate towards sugar, so you go back up. You feel good for a little while and then you crash again.
So true, and like I've said a couple of times, it's a perpetual cycle that is incredibly difficult to get out of when processed refined sugars become a routine in your diet.
In addition to more stable energy levels, I also noticed a significant reduction of my dad gut. It didn't disappear, but the tide had turned. All right, so the 30-day challenge is done, and I feel pretty good. There were a few things that I changed over the past 30 days. I did start going to the gym more now that I'm not traveling as much. I also reduced my carbs, partly because of the reduction in added sugar. And it's hard to pinpoint the exact percentage benefit that I received from getting rid of sugar. To steal a phrase from Dan Harris, I'd say maybe I was 10% healthier. It definitely made a huge difference in my energy levels and how I felt every day. And it was definitely nice to curb those cravings, because who knows how bad it could have gotten if I just kept snacking and kept going.
Well, the science would tell you how bad it would get over the longer term if you consistently eat a lot of processed refined sugars and foods. You would be at a significantly increased risk of diabetes, obesity, heart disease, stroke, certain cancers, and so on. A lot of processed refined foods in your diet will take you no place good.
My dad gut could have potentially turned into a grandpa gut, which would have been really scary. But going forward, I love sweets, I love dessert, I'm a big fan. And I don't want to just get rid of it completely, because I think in this life we need to actually enjoy things. But I want to bring it back in moderation.
So I don't like that concept there that you need to have processed refined sugars in your diet to enjoy your food. This is an unhealthy relationship with food. If you want to treat yourself every once in a while to processed refined foods, then no problem. But equally, you can enjoy food without these added sugars, and there are lots of healthy alternatives out there for those of you who have more of a sweet tooth. Anyhow, if you enjoyed this video, then be sure to check out this one up here, because I'm sure you find it equally interesting. And as always, remember to look after your body, because it's the only place you have to live. And I'll see you next time.